I adore David Lynch. I love filmmaking. And if I wasn't a mentalist, I would probably explore film and become a filmmaker. I think I watched my first David Lynch film when I was 12 or 13. It was Mulholland Drive. Far too young to watch a film, film like that. But just an extraordinary piece of cinema that to this day I can close my eyes and the vignettes from that film stay with me. So he is a huge inspiration to my work. I fell in love with magic when I was very young. I think I was 4 or 5 years old, and my granddad taught me a very, very simple illusion where he took my hand, he put a coin in it, he made my sign my name on the coin, and then he passed his hand over mine, and the coin vanished. And he pointed to a matchbox on the table. He asked me to open it, and inside the matchbox was my signed coin. And I was enthralled and hooked by this miracle that I'd witnessed. He taught me the secret, and it was deeply disappointing, but I realized, wow, there's something amazing about taking these everyday activities, these skills that you can learn, and creating this sort of transcendent experience from it that we don't have in our day-to-day lives. And secondly, growing up in those landscapes of Scotland near the Clyde Valley, Scotland is a place where myth and mystery is such a big part of its identity. That's where my love of stories came from, and my love of exploring mysteries and wonder in so many ways. And from there, I studied psychology at school. And then I did a hypnosis course in Milan when I was 14 years old. And I didn't tell my mom. I told her it was a school trip, learned these strange esoteric skills from this sage in Milan, and then came back a week later with these hypnotic talents, apparently. And it wasn't until I started doing interviews like this that my mom realized that I did this course. So it was amazing that those formative experiences really gave me my North Star, where I thought, this is what I want to do. I think when people hear the word mentalism, it scares them a little. They think it's related to psychics or contacting the dead, and it really is none of that. To me, all that mentalism is it is exploring the power of the human mind. I call it theater of the mind. Everything that you see on stage may not be entirely real. I'm not trying to convince you that mind reading is real, but it allows you to go inside your own head, think about your thoughts and emotions and how they're ordered, and why you choose to think about the things that you do, and how you can change that if you want to. And what I like about it is it's a little lighter than a therapy session, but it's a little more philosophical and deeper than card tricks or a traditional illusion. And I think just as soon as I did that hypnosis course, seeing the power that we had within ourselves, in our own minds, to allow an audience to tap into that power, I think is an amazing, amazing gift to give. Music, film, and photography and art is really the catalyst for my work. It is how I begin my creative process. So instead of looking at other magicians or illusionists or the type of shows that they're doing, my inspiration comes from filmmakers, David Lynch, Alfred Hitchcock, the idea of how tension is created and released, how a story can be told in a non-linear way, what you choose to hide, what you choose to reveal. And I begin to build my shows from there. But I sort of have two people who've inspired my direct work in the skills that I've learned as a mentalist. One is a person called David Burglass from the 70s and 80s. He was all over British television. And he really created the sort of modern form of mentalism that we see today. But I did have a personal mentor growing up in Scotland, a gentleman by the name of Roy Walton. And he owned a magic shop called Tam Shepherd's. And I think this isn't only one of the oldest magic shops in Scotland, it's one of the oldest magic shops in the world. And it's this strange little place, as you would imagine. And the first time you go into the shop, you're not actually allowed to go up the back to meet him. That's where all the advanced magic is. You're only allowed right at the beginning of the shop. And over the course of months, you build trust and you work your way further up the shop. And I met him when I was 8 or 9 years old. And amazingly, he really took me under his wing and taught me some of the skills that I know today. Roy wasn't a mentalist. He was known for card tricks, but the illusions that he created, the psychology that he used in those illusions, the misdirection he used in those illusions, I still use in my work to this day. His work has inspired the work of David Blaine and David Copperfield. Some of the card tricks that you've seen them do have been designed by Roy. Sadly, he passed away a couple of years ago, but he was a huge inspiration. I think about him often. At the beginning of the pandemic, when I wasn't able to perform, I was at a loss. I had been performing 500, 600 shows a year across the world, having the chance to connect with audiences once or twice a night. And in the space of a few weeks, that had vanished. And strangely, I went back to Scotland during that time to see family, thinking I'd be there for 3 or 4 weeks. And I ended up being there for about 1.5 years. They closed the borders to America, where I stay now. So I actually used that time to look at my creative process, reconnect to the places and the people that inspired me. And I developed a show, a digital show. It was called The Journey. And it was a strange but wonderful experience to sit in my home every night and connect with people across the world. One evening we might be in Hong Kong. The next evening we might be in LA. So not only did it help hone my skills during that time, but it also really made me distill my love of doing what I do, about that audience connection, about that emotional connection. I think the emotional connection is the most important part of my work. Being a mentalist, the connection between a performer and an audience, I genuinely think it's one of the closest connections that you can get in the arts. And I really want to protect that in many ways. I don't want to cheapen the craft. So I get to stand on stage, I get to meet several hundred people I've never met before, and we get to connect in a really deep way, in ways that you might not even connect with someone that you've known for years, all in the space of 70 or 80 minutes. And that excites me before every single show that I do. Wonders is a show that started with something that happened to me as a little kid in my grandparents' attic. And it was having this strange experience of connection to the world and connection to myself. And I use that simple story as a catalyst, as a springboard to take the audience on their own adventure of discovery of wonder in their own life. I think there's a great fear with participatory shows. And I am one of those people who has a great fear of those participatory shows as well. As soon as I hear there's audience interaction, I am the person in the back of the theater keeping my head down. The hope with Wonders, though, is that it is a collective experience, that we are all going on this journey together. So there may be certain audience members who are brought to the stage, and if they're comfortable, asked to share specific memories or emotions or experiences they've had that have inspired their life. But for the most part, it is a group of 400 people sitting there going in this amazing adventure. There's an old adage in the magic community that the worst things that magicians did was they took something profound and they trivialized it. And I think the hope with my work is that you're bringing back that rarity, that ritual, that collective experience to magic and to wonder. And the way that I approach that is through story. Story that transcends the illusion to be something more than just a trick. It becomes a metaphor for something greater. And as soon as you are connecting audience members' stories to that experience and weaving that throughout my own story, it becomes this immersive and exciting adventure. To be playing the Sydney Opera House is a lifetime dream come true. I remember growing up as a kid in a tiny village in Scotland and developing my work and the shows, taking those things to the Edinburgh Festival and hoping that one day I may be able to move to London. That was my dream. To be sitting here at 30 years of age and playing the Opera House with a show I developed a few years ago, it really is a dream come true. For the next few years for me, I have the great joy of traveling with my shows this year with Wonders and At the Illusionist Table. And then at the end of this year, I begin developing my new show. And it's a large-scale production that involves aspects of performance that I don't think I have ever seen on stage before. So the job right now is bringing together a wonderful creative team and collaborative team and beginning that creative process. And then the hope in 2023 and 2024 is to have the chance like Wonders to share it with the world. At this point, it should be just a cut to black.